This unit was created for all of the students enrolled in the Intensive Independent Readiness Classroom. This classroom is for students who need functional academics and functional life skills, and to really work on those independent readiness skills in order to function within the classroom and school environment. Each of my students have individualized educational plans, or IEPs. I have students with multiple disabilities, and I have a wide range of disabilities within my classroom. I have students with Down syndrome, autism, cerebral palsy, Prader-Willis. I also have a student with a vision and hearing impairment as well, and some other disabilities are also within my classroom. Some of my students do communicate utilizing switches and augmentative communication devices and also sign language, but I do have some students who are verbal. All of my students receive speech therapy services, occupational therapy, and physical therapy, and I also have a student who receives some vision and hearing services as well. The students in my classroom range in grade levels and in age. The standard that my students are working towards in this unit is life science, and the objectives for each of my students are all individualized due to the nature of my classroom. All of the objectives will be assessed utilizing a teacher-created data sheet that I made in order to meet their individual needs. Each objective will be assessed based on each student's individual needs, and each student will be assessed individually. Some of my students are given picture choices in order to label and identify, and some of my students will be given some answer choices as well, varying from 2 choices to 5 for each question asked. For my teaching and learning strategies, my main design strategy is that I'll be using the Robert Gage 9 events of instruction. I just feel like this best supports my students' needs and the way that they learn. Additional theories that I use is the PATS stage theory of cognitive development and the stimulus response cycle. These are really guiding theories for my classroom and for the way that I teach. I will be using a variety of technologies for this unit. I will be using my ActiveBoard in order to display a flip chart in which I made that has different activities pages and discussion pages for each of the days of the unit. Some of the pages do contain those containers that will make a noise if the student gets the answer right. My students really enjoy this, and that sense of errorless learning experience is extremely important for them. The flip chart is really going to help me keep my lessons organized and on track. I will also be using some different YouTube videos in order to gain my students' attention and pique their interest, and also it helps them really remember the different things that they need to remember. Typically, my students learn best through music, so I always add that in there as song in there to help them remember. I also have students who we just need a lot of repetition in order to remember things. So in having the songs, we're able to play those not only within our lessons, but also at our technology center with their paraprofessional. 2 of the songs that I'll be using is called the Parts of the Plant song and then the Needs of the Plant. Another thing that we will be using are some online games. These games will provide the students some fun and interactive practice. One of the games that we'll be using is Parts of the Plant game from Soft School's website. In this game, the students drag the words and label the parts of the plant. If they get the answers correct, the plant changes colors. The game does not allow you to get the wrong answer, which again provides my students with that errorless learning in which they need in order to continue learning. Students will be able to play this game and the other game with their paraprofessional at the Technology Center for extra practice along with during the lesson. The second game that I'm going to be using is the How Plants Grow activity. It's located on the Science Kids website. Within this activity, students use heat and water to grow a healthy plant. You can also manipulate the light that is provided, the sunlight that is provided. You're trying to grow a healthy plant over a 4-week time frame. If the student uses too much or too little water or heat, the plant will not grow into a healthy plant. And it gives the students a lot of great feedback onto why their plant didn't grow well or what they did correctly, which I think my students will really enjoy. My day-to-day lesson plans, they vary every day, but on day 1, we are going to be participating in a What is a Plant group discussion. And then we're going to go on a nature walk, and we're going to take our iPads with us and take pictures of things that are plants and things that are not plants. My students are going to really enjoy this walk, and also they're really going to enjoy coming back and sharing the things that they found on the Promethean board as well. On day 2, we'll be listening to the Parts of the Plant song, and then we're going to complete a a discussion utilizing our picture cards and our Velcro discussion board and the flip chart about the parts of a plant. And we'll also be completing the parts of a plant on the active board in the flip chart. On day 3, we'll be again reviewing those parts of the plant and discussing what each part of the plant does. And that's when we will begin our carnation experiment, where the students are going to learn how food and water travel through a plant. This is where the students will place a white carnation into a colored water. And then the next day, hopefully we'll be able to see what happens. After they put their carnation in their water, their different colored water, they will complete a prediction worksheet to see what they think is going to happen. On day 4, we will review the parts of the plant and then observe the results from our carnation experiment and complete those reflection worksheets and see if our prediction was correct. And then on day 5, we will be listening to the parts of the plant song again. We're going to review those parts of the plant and review what each part of the plant does. And this is where we are going to play the plants part game. And then we're also going to complete the plant handout as well. The parts of the plant handout, sorry. And then on day 6, we are going to be listening to the needs of a plant, the plant song. So we're going to discuss the needs of a plant using our Velcro discussion board and picture cards. And we're also going to discuss if a plant will grow in different conditions, such as will a plant be able to grow without water or with a hat instead of sun or things like that. In order to make it more interactive and fun for the students, we may be throwing in some silly things in there too. On day 7, we'll again listen to that needs of the plant song, and we were going to review the needs of the plant and discuss what will happen to a plant if we did not do everything that it needs in order to grow. And that's when I'll be introducing the How the Plants Grow game. And then also working on completing a handout for what plants need. On day 8, that's going to be our review day. We're going to review everything that we've learned so far. We're going to rotate playing the games and listening to the songs, and also doing some of the Velcro discussions with peer partners. On day 9, we will be assessing. I assess all my students individually, so this means I will be working one-on-one with each of the students. While I'm doing this, my classroom paraprofessionals will be leading a group. Within this group, they're going to be doing some voting and some discussion about what we should plant for our classroom window garden. On day 10, we are actually going to be using all the skills taught during this unit to plant our classroom window garden. Within my classroom and my lessons, I use a variety of differentiation due to the mixed abilities of my students. For each lesson, I set up switches and talk blocks, which are pre-programmed with key terms and phrases for my students who utilizes those switches to participate. I also have students who utilize a picture exchange communication system, which means that in exchange for a word or a request, they will hand you a picture. So for every lesson, I have to print off possible answers and some distractors for the students who are utilizing that type of system. I also have two students who are utilizing communication devices this year. So for each of those different communication devices, I make a word map for the student and the paraprofessional to be able to easily locate the words needed for the lesson. This just seems to help a little bit with the mapping and finding out where the word is located on the device in a quick and timely manner. One of my students is currently using the GoTalk app with the 4 choices on it. So I have pages created for him, so then he's able to participate by hitting the button on the GoTalk app. For all the handouts, I will use a different accommodations to meet the needs of my students on an individual basis. I have word banks for my students who can write. I also use picture cards for my other students. And then I do have one student who will have a Velcro matching activity, because that's just the type of activity that he will. For these handouts, these are done in 2 ways. First, these can be done through paper, cutting and pasting on paper. I also have them laminated in a Velcro activity for some of my students who need that type of structure. And then this is also within my flip chart, so with the containers that make the noise if they get it right, or bounce back the answer if they get it wrong. Having it a multitude of ways is really helpful for my students and really beneficial. So we will be using these sheets multiple times in different formats. Like stated before, these sheets are done in multiple different formats, but this is just a quick example of what they would be completed, what they'll look like completed. For my online digital content, I will have this page that's on the slide as one of our home pages in our technology center throughout the unit. This way the paraprofessionals will be able to help the students navigate the links as needed. At the top of it is the objectives that the students are working towards, and then I have the lesson songs, the lesson games, and then down at the bottom I have the lesson handouts. And then I also have examples for each of the lesson handouts to the side. All of the technology used in the day-to-day lessons fall within that substitution and augmentation categories. The videos are really a substitution for me teaching the topics without the visuals and music. And this substitution is extremely beneficial. My students really respond well to that music. They also respond well to the repetition that can be had. And I can also walk around the room and I can be making sure all students are participating. And I can also be doing the signs for my student who needs those sign language support. The games kind of fall in that augmentation category. Because they provide that substitution for the Velcro and cut and paste activity, but they also provide the feedback that the Velcro activities just cannot do, which my students really need that feedback in order to continue to learn. For evaluating all of my students' objectives, I will be using the teacher-created data sheet that you see there to track their progress. This sheet has all of the parts of the plant and all the things that a plant needs. And I can also mark the pre-test score and their post-test score. This also gives me the chance for me to be able to mark any adaptations that I needed to make to it based on did I give the students paper pencil activity? Did I give them a cut and paste activity? Did I give them picture choices? Because each of my students are tested differently, that is really important for me to be able to write down. I also, at the bottom of that data sheet, every day I write down lesson notes. This is something that I have to do for data collection within my classroom. So every day I write down how the student did within the lesson. So at the bottom of that sheet, all throughout the unit, I will be filling it out. How the student did. Did the student participate? Did the student make progress toward their objective? Did they answer any questions correctly? Did they need a lot of support that day? That really helps me determine was this unit effective for this particular student? Or are there some things that we need to change and reevaluate later on or after this lesson?